Hey, what's going on, RCGRers? Welcome back to the workshop. What we have here is something I think Axial SCX10 III owners have been waiting for. It is the standard axle conversion kit. Now, we saw a hint of this coming because they gave us the panhard bar mount for straight axles in the kit and in the ready to run. But now we have the actual conversion set so we can make our Jeeps straight axle Jeeps. I know some people were a little upset that, real Jeeps don't have portal axles. They wanted straight axles right out of the box, but during that time when this thing came out, a lot of people wanted portal axles, so I think Axial went with what people wanted, and then they wanted this, and well, now you can have the best of both worlds. You could get this conversion kit if you want to be a bit more scale, or you could still rock your portal axles. You could switch back and forth. This kit doesn't seem like it's too hard to install. So actually the box itself, pretty cool for packaging. Gives you a little window here so you can see what's going on inside the box, and on the back side it shows you everything that's included with the kit. But let me pop this open so we can check it out closer. And this is actually all foam, so these are nicely packaged, so they're going to get to you unscathed, and you get to make the first scratches on it. But let's pull out this front axle first. Now these are new AR45s, and they come pre-assembled just like this, so that's going to make assembly a lot easier. Let me go over some of the features, of course. So we've got the stout steering knuckles on the ends, 12mm hexes with a screw pin through it, so they don't have a slot in the back of these hexes. It just relies on the screw pin. Ball bearings, of course, throughout, and they're actually seal ball bearings, the black seals on them. A little bit farther in, we've got universal axles, and then we've got the composite axle, and these actually have the carriers that bolt onto them. I know a lot of people, they want to bolt on their carriers just in case they break one. They don't have to swap out the whole axle. That is an option here. That's really cool to see. And then we've got the main part of the axle with a really cool truss on top, just help with that rigidity. The link mounts themselves, those are molded to the axles, so you won't be able to swap those out if you want to, but I think the main thing that people wanted was to be able to swap out the carriers. Now on the inside, we've got our helical cut gears and a locker in there as well, and they go and grease everything. So it's packed with grease. You don't have to take it apart. You can just bolt it on. You don't have to worry about it. And then finally, we have their heavy duty links and rod ends. So that's really nice looking axle right off the bat. And of course, they give you the rear axle as well. Pretty much the same stuff going on here, just a straight axle in the back. We've got screws on the end to hold the bearings in, a little spacer out here. And a really nice looking truss on top. The gears are again greased, and it feels really smooth from the factory, so it's built really well. Also built is the shocks. So these are 100mm shocks. It is a different shock than what's on there, and they're nice. They come pre-built. They do have yellow springs on them, and all you have to do is go pull the caps off and fill them with oil. And of course, they give you the oil as well. Let me grab that. I've already pulled it out of the box. So this is all the stuff that they give you. They give you an instruction manual, and this will walk you through all the steps of building the kit. A little registration card looks like there, and then these are all the parts that it comes with. So beyond just swapping out the axles, there's a little bit more work on the inside of it because we're gonna have to change the gear ratios, put some different links on as well. So all of those parts that you need for the conversion are right here. All right, so here's that shock oil, 2 bottles of 35 weight shock oil to go into the shocks. New rear upper links, hardware of course, got a new panhard bar, straight axle mount, and then we've got a longer drive shaft because the axle up front is now going to be in a new position, so you're going to need a slightly longer drive shaft for the center. And then the gears. The gears are going to be necessary because the ratio is going to change. And that's really about it. The instruction manual looks pretty well laid out. I heard that there is a little bit of a finicky process to get the gears in the center transmission. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take apart my SCX10 III kit. I'm going to drop this conversion in there, and we'll take a close-up look of it, and I'll tell you about any little tips and tricks you need to know along the way to get this set in. All right, I'm going to get to work. All right, so installing the conversion kit went rather smooth, and I think it was pretty quick as well, considering the shocks are already assembled and the axles are already assembled. All you have to really do is concentrate on pulling the stock axles out, kind of keeping track of where your hardware goes, because you have to reuse some hardware, and then getting the transmission out and the gear swap. That takes a little bit of time as well, but everything flowed pretty smooth. The instructions, they flow pretty well. The only thing is like the rear upper links that you're taking out and you're putting it right back in. It's the transition of the assembly. So I just hesitated for a minute there to figure that out, but there isn't anything else that's really out of the norm in the instruction manual. Maybe it would be nice if it said, like disassembly steps and reassembly steps, but it flows pretty smooth. Bleeding the shocks is fairly easy. Just fill it up with oil, cycle the shock shaft a couple of times to get the air out from underneath the piston, put the cap back on, push the shaft up all the way, put the screw in, your shock is bled. Wipe off any excess oil. Once you put on the axles, really just snug down all of the screws. Don't over tighten it. You don't want to strip anything out. When you're reinstalling the screw into your servo horn, make sure you put some thread lock on that so it doesn't back out. But there's really no tips I could pass along. It all flowed together really smoothly. Take your time. You're going to have to readjust your front links. I guess that's something to look out for. The links are a little bit longer, so if you have a pair of calipers, that definitely helps out. Then when you get to the transmission, disassemble it really slowly. Have it standing up on end, pull the cap up off the top, pull your gears out, and that way everything else is still aligned inside, and then you can place the cap back on once you swap out the new gears and tighten everything back down. When I had the transmission apart, I took the opportunity to just pull out the dig servo, the dig unit, or the dig arm, and put the lockout spacer in there. I'm still cool with the 2-speed, so I have that installed. And the only other change I made was I put a Holmes Hobby 16-turn 550 motor in here. But other than that, this thing is still stock, and I'm just gonna have a lot of fun with it on these new axles. So I'm gonna throw the tires back on, throw the body back on. We'll go out for a quick test drive, and we'll meet back here to talk about the performance. So yesterday when I was building up this kit, it was a beautiful 60 degrees outside, and then today when I woke up to go out to test it, it was 30 and there was snow on the ground. but I trekked up the mountain and I got a good feel for the new SCX10 III conversion kit. This thing still rocks. It is such a great rig. The first thing I noticed was this really looks good on the rocks. I mean, the portals are really cool. They have their benefits, you know, the clearance and everything, but this just looks right when it's sitting on the rocks. I definitely love taking pictures of it and getting down low for some of that close-up video of the axles. It was just really cool to watch. You know, it just looks the part of a Jeep. But the big deal is, does it work? And yes, it does. It's still a very predictable rig. The center of gravity is just right. The geometry is just there. The suspension is really smooth in my opinion. I was pretty impressed with how well it articulates over the rocks. It did before, but still, I mean, they got it on point. It's kind of amazing. You could swap out so many components and the truck still works really well. The chassis is designed right. Everything is just designed right. What actually really impressed me is there's one spot there where I have never been able to crawl a ready to run or a stock rig, and I was actually able to get it up that particular rock face. And that's what really did it for me. That sold me on this conversion kit was climbing that one particular rock. But it did really well elsewhere. When it did roll, it does roll. If you do push the truck too far, it's kind of a predictable roll. You know that it's going to happen, and it's almost like you have time to maybe adjust yourself and back out. And that's what I did. Is there a couple times where I saw the wheel lift, I saw the chassis rolling, and I was able to back out and reposition the truck. So I think it's a great conversion kit. Does it hang up on the rocks? Yes, it does. I noticed it a little bit more than when driving this rig with portals, and I drove a portal SCX10 III there at that spot before. You know, it's just, again, you gotta adjust your driving lines, and once you do that, you relearn the truck a little bit, and these axles work really well. And what you guys saw out there was pretty much a stock rig. I mean, there is no weight on here, no brass weight. I think it could use a little bit of brass weight. I mean, that pretty much goes for any rig out there. That definitely helps settle the rig in. But this was totally stock. I mean, I just had a Tekin speed controller in here, a Holmes Hobby Crawlmaster motor, KX Proline tires, just standard Proline wheels, and everything else is just stock. So, you know, no other modifications whatsoever, and it did that well. I was pretty impressed, and, you know, just adding a few option parts on there, I think it's going to be a really killer rig. So if you've been waiting for a straight axle kit to come out, wondering how it's going to work, if it's worth it, I think it is. I definitely like how easy it was to install. The performance works really well. It definitely adds to the scale look. And I think it's just a great option for those looking to customize their rigs. Unfortunately, I don't have a price for the conversion kit. I received it before it was released, but as soon as I have that information, I will put it in the description below. And while you're there in the comment section, tell me what you think about this kit. Do you think you're gonna add it to your SCX10 III, or do you think the portals are just the way to go? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. All right, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Throw the video a like. We'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.